This is The Locker Room, where the coaches of Husson University talk sports.
Hello everyone, I'm your host Nick Blaszczak, and this is The Locker Room, the show that introduces you to the coaches and athletes of Husson University. On today's show, we are pleased to be joined by Amanda Cummings, head coach of the women's soccer team. Amanda, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you give us a little bit of a background for people that might not know a little bit about you, your roles here at Husson?
Sure. So for the last 4 years, I've been working in the advancement department, first as the prospect researcher, second as a development officer, and for the last year and a half, I've been the director of alumni relations. My job here is to reach out and engage alumni across the country, even the world sometimes, in our communications pieces, and just to let them know and keep them connected to what we're doing here at Husson.
You yourself graduated from Husson and played 3 sports in soccer, basketball, and softball. How does it feel to coach a team that you played on not too long ago?
It's a wonderful feeling. I have enjoyed every moment of it. What I think has really resonated with the current team that I have is the fact that I've been there and I've done that, and I've been through some of the challenges that they faced over the last few years, and I couldn't be happier to share in that challenge and those ups and downs with them once again now as their coach. So,
how have you evolved from an athlete to a head coach over the course of your career here at Husson?
The evolving is continuous. I think there are times that I still wish I was an athlete. There are certain times in practice where I go out and I'm still able to show them some of the things that I want them to do, because I try to stay in shape and try to stay physically active. But at the same time, I've had to mature, I've had to grow, and I have to separate myself from, athlete to coach. And sometimes that's challenging, just because some of the girls are very close to me in age. But at the same time, I've enjoyed having that authority and being able to put in pieces of the game of soccer that I think our program should really entail, and I've really enjoyed that so far.
What changes have there been from when you played to now?
I'd say the biggest change, we have more out-of-state soccer players. The previous coach did a pretty good job recruiting from other states in New England, which is nice. But we've also lost some of our traditions. One of the biggest things that I enjoyed when I was a soccer player here were some of the traditions that we carried on from years and years and years. And so I'm really trying to bring those back into the program, because I want us to be built upon that same legacy.
In your first season at the helm, you inherited a team that faced quite a few housekeeping changes. How difficult was it to coach with a whole new brand staff on the roster?
Well, I will say there were some difficulties just in transitioning, because I was a basketball coach before, and that entails a little bit different detail and structure. But my father is my assistant, and he was my assistant 2 years previous at the basketball job, so we work really well together. The biggest staff change, I would say, is having student assistants. They were great, and by the end of the year they were contributing a lot more, but I really believe in them and I want to hear more from them. I want them to have a greater impact on the team and the game. So trying to bring that out in them was challenging, but at the same time that helped me grow as a person, as a coach, and I'm looking forward to a next year of having more student coaches that I can kind of bring along and hopefully mentor.
You mentioned your father, Randy Gifford.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like calling the shots alongside your dad?
I think many would say probably he calls the shots. No, it's been a good dynamic. He's always been kind of the more quiet, reserved. He's very laid back, and I'm like the exact opposite. So we complement each other very well. And he's very respectful of me and knows that I know the game, and basically just offers me his help when I ask for it. But the girls really respond well to him because he has that laid-back personality, and he likes to be a part of their lives, and we really try to create a family culture within our team.
Speaking of assistant coach, in 2012 you led 5 Eagles to all-conference honors. What carryover effects and mentality did you implement on the girls this season as head coach?
I think the biggest thing that I kind of carried over from being, an assistant was the fact that we kind of have to all work together, and we really need to make this a trusting environment by being able to communicate openly, honestly. And so when I was not far removed from being a player, there were some challenges to try to coach your friends. Well, I was very honest then, and I've carried that same mentality over now, that I'm very honest with the girls, but I also allow them to be honest with me. And so if they're having issues or just, want to talk about their day, my door is always open for that.
So you had roughly 13 players return on this year's roster. How did they react to you being the head coach and get acclimated to your coaching style?
I don't know if any of them are yet, but no, I think the girls were very welcoming, which is surprising at this level because it was scary for everybody coming in. They didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect. But by the end of the season, in our quarterfinal game against MMA, we were playing the best soccer we could. And so there were some peaks and valleys in there where there was some resistance, because change is always met with resistance. But they finally kind of gave in to their stubbornness and kind of came and saw the light of what we were trying to teach. And once they did that, we started to play the best soccer that we were able to.
Last season, Husson went 12-8 overall and 7-2 in the NAC before losing to Castleton in the conference semifinals. Did you feel any pressure coming in, knowing how well the team performed last year?
I did. And I think just going back even further, one of the things I talked about, the tradition, we traditionally have always made it to the NAC championship game. And that was always in the back of my mind. But at the same time, I really tried to look at the bigger picture and just understand that we were changing a lot from their style from last year. And, personalities are different. Sometimes they don't always mix. And so I knew it was going to be kind of a growing year, and it will continue to be for the next year or so, I think. So after I got over the initial hump of losing a few games, the NAC championship wasn't as important to me. It was really coming together and playing the best soccer that we could, more so than the wins and losses.
Under your leadership, the Eagles went 8-10-1 overall and 4-5 in conference play. The first game ended in a tie. In your next two, you picked up wins, one from St. Joseph's, the other one from the University of New England. Mm-hmm. Did you know at that point that Husson could be serious contenders in the NAC after having some early season success?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we were hit with the injury wagon this year. I had 3 major players have season-ending injuries, and when that happened, it was very deflating, I think, for not only just the team, but as a coach. You really try to connect with these girls, and when they get injured and they're unable to play, it hurts everyone's feelings a little bit. But I just continue to try to stay positive, and we went through like a 7 losing streak, but I just remained. I just believed in the girls. I knew that we could get to where we wanted to be, and I think one of the things that they would say is that we continually just said, you know what, we know we can be better. We know we can be better. We know that we can be contenders, and if we keep that attitude and that in the back of our minds, we'll get to where we want to be. And even if it's not this year, we're building the program back up. So you have to kind of think of it in that span of the 4 years that you're here, especially if you're talking to the freshmen.
After those first few games, like you said, you hit a little bit of a bump in the road, got plagued by the injury bug.
Yep.
And you finished the month of September with a record of 3-5-1. Going into October, how do you turn the page and prepare for the rest of the season after a tough first half?
Well, one of the things that we really did this year, we overloaded the first half of the season with the best competition we could. And so every day we would sit down with everyone and say, okay, listen, ladies, we're playing the best competition we can right now. We didn't really have any of those confidence-building games. Every game was a battle. And one of the things that we really focused on a daily basis was effort. And it didn't matter if it was a win or loss. It didn't matter if we scored 4 goals or no goals. We really focused on everyone's effort. And when it wasn't there, we would sub. If it was there, one night after the Machias game, we promised everyone if we won the game in overtime that we would take them and everyone would get Big Macs at McDonald's. And for some reason that just like excited everybody. So we would put little things throughout the season that people could work towards, and we would reward them for that. You know, we always do a player of the game and a 12th man of the game. Those things keep people engaged and they keep people excited. And so even though if we're not, you know, the outcome isn't the way we want it to be, there still are some positive and rewards that we can look forward to.
In October, you guys found your scoring touch and were outscoring opponents 27-20. How much of that is from the Big Mac factor?
I hope none of it. We can't eat any more Big Macs. We're on a strict, no. I think, you know, it just takes a while when you're building something new to get the hang of it. And we really, I mean, if you look at Leah Hibbid, she didn't really play the front line until the last few games of the season. She's a natural front liner, but we needed her skill in the midfield, so she was really pulled out of position. Sid Costa was, you know, we put her in like 7 different positions. So I think, you know, what we really found was we didn't find where people were comfortable playing until towards the end of the season or, you know, late October. And that allowed us to kind of put our best foot forward.
You mentioned Leah Hibbid. She had 10 goals this season and scored her 50th point. Do you think maybe finding her in that key position, like you said, you had a little rotation going on there. Once she had found her stride, do you think that really allowed her to excel and become such an offensive threat?
I think so. I think that in addition to some of the other people started scoring, you know, like the Thomas game, Katie Curtis scored, and having a few other people score takes the pressure off Leah because you know, last year she was the sole scorer, and that puts a lot of pressure on people. And not only that, but it forces other teams to double team and continually just be at her back all the time. Well, when we opened it up and allowed other people to make those runs forward and have the green light to take those shots, it really gave Leah, you know, she could take a deep breath and say, okay, my team can help me out. It's not just me scoring. Everyone has an opportunity. And I think once we did that, she was able to relax a little bit more, be a little bit more poised in front of the goal. And then we also just practiced more going to goal. In our practices, we focused on, okay, you have 2 men on you. How are you going to score?
So kind of lessening the burden for Hibbid was also Sydney Costa in the back end, the junior defenseman. She had team high 4 assists this season.
Yep.
How important is it to have a defenseman be able to play on both ends of the field effectively?
Yeah, well, our philosophy anyway is that we want our defenders to get up the field. We want to be up the field playing offense together. We want to be, you know, all playing defense together. And so for me, and for what we tried to teach this year, having our defenders make those runs forward and be playmakers is a difference maker. When we started to do that, we started to see more success finishing goals.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll take a closer look at some of the players on the team and what lies ahead for the Eagles next season.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Cinderella found the pet that fits her perfectly. Tiana gave her pet the royal treatment. Belle found beauty when no one else did. And you can too. Share your heart. Share your love. Bring home your forever friend. Make a shelter pet part of your world. Happily Ever After begins at theshelterpetproject.org.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund breeding.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What? I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Welcome back to the Locker Room. I'm your host, Nick Blaszczak, and today we're pleased to be joined by Amanda Cummings, head coach of the women's soccer team. Amanda, prior to the break, we were talking about some of the impact that upperclassmen players have had on the team. What about some of the underclassmen? And you were hired in June. Did you get into the recruiting process for this year's freshman class?
I will say that I'll start with the recruiting thing, just because being hired later was difficult to get out there and really recruit. However, Alex Speed is one that it wasn't really sure whether or not she was going to come. I reached out to her coach, reached out to her. She was one that I was able to solidify before the fall. And kind of segueing into that, she was kind of our most impactful first year this year. She, started out not getting a ton of minutes, and then we had a few injuries, and she ended up being one of our most impactful starters in the back line. I mean, she comes from a small school where she was the leading scorer for their team pretty much, and she's only ever played forward, and now she's an outside back. But she's taken it so well and has taken it in stride, and she's the most quiet kid you'll ever meet. She doesn't say boo, but she listens, and she got more aggressive. And what's so nice about having forwards in your back line is that they can control the ball. So she never panicked and just booted the ball up the field. She took on players, went by them, and then made a smart pass afterwards. So I would say she was as a first year, very impactful. Emily Berry from Ellsworth, another one, very impactful. We had to have her on the field in our midfield, and she kind of played that stopper/defensive mid for us most of the season. And that's coming off of, multiple injuries over the summer, and then injuring her shoulder during the season. And she's just a strong, aggressive player that I just see doing really great things for us in the future.
As a head coach, what are you looking for when you're recruiting players?
This year, there's something very specific, and it's not skill and it's not scoring, it's aggressiveness. We lacked that a little bit this year, and that's really a personality trait. I'm really looking for those athletes that want to just get up in the air, win the ball, will just kind of run through people without backing down, and help build that mentality around. It's a very rare to see an athlete like that, and so I'm trying very hard to find one or two of those that can be very impactful for us for next season.
Being a predominantly younger team with 17 underclassmen, what was the overall team chemistry this season?
I like to think it was really great. We didn't have a ton of drama. Now, I wasn't inside the locker room all the time, so I'm can't say that with 100% confidence, but what I do know is now that we're out of season, I still see all of my players hanging out together. I see them wanting to go to dinner with us and keep that relationship going through the off season. So even though we're primarily young, the upperclassmen have done a good job kind of just inviting and welcoming everyone in and kind of taking them under their wing and really making a family.
It sounds like you guys have created some form of communal aspect there. How important is that to you as a coach to not just only be helping these students as athletes, but also as students and good people as well?
To me, that's the number one reason I want to coach. It's not about, soccer or whatever the sport is. It's about mentoring young people to become good citizens. And so what we really try to do is, soccer is a privilege. You're here for your academics, so however we can support you in that way, that's the number one reason. And we think that, the success of that is because we create this family environment where we're open to talk about and help with accounting homework or something like that, or go out to dinner on a night that we have off, or those small things really make the experience great for the student athletes. Very rarely are they going to remember, that one time we lost to Thomas, 1-0 or whatever, we beat Thomas 1-0, they're going to remember how we impacted them as people. And so that's really the message that we carry throughout our program.
I know you mentioned that you had some more veteran players, upperclassmen, talking in coordination with some of your younger players, helping them through the ranks. What kind of a presence do those type of players bring into the locker room day in and day out?
Well, I take Sid as a perfect example. She's just the nicest young lady, and she's taken some of the freshmen under her wing and just has them come over on a midweek day and hangs out with them and or helps them with their homework, or just really is that presence for those young people that come into college nervous about being able to balance the load of soccer and school and relationships and all that. So having players like that, to me, is one of the most important things, being an upperclassman, and that's why we choose our captains very carefully. Sid was a junior captain this year. I look at Katie Steer and Aaron Bullier, who are our other two captains. They're very impactful because of what they do off the soccer field more than what they do on the soccer field, and that's just being a resource for their younger teammates, or being a shoulder to cry on, or take responsibility for something. That's really the most important thing, and that's why they're often recognized the most.
You mentioned Erin Bullier, senior captain. She received all conference honors for her defensive work this year.
Yes.
How big of a player has she been for you guys?
Well, I remember her as a freshman when I was an assistant coach, and she is just that person that you can rely on always. It didn't matter if someone was 10 times faster than her. It didn't matter if she was having a bad day and was stressed with school. She was that one person that I could look at and I say, Erin, you need to get this done. You need to do this. And she did it without hesitation. And even when she went through periods of being frustrated at how we were trying to change things, she still stepped up without attitude and just did it because she knew it was going to make our team better. And so, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I think she's been recognized like every year that she's been a player, and she certainly deserves it because she was my one person that I could just say, you know what, I know that she's going to stop that breakaway. I just know it. And that's so much more than just in soccer. She's that one person that I could rely on to get the team back at focused, and or she's going to have good grades or whatever it is. So I just relied on her very heavily this year, but she could take it, and she was such a great asset to our team.
Erin Bullier, she has a sister on the team, Allison. She's turned into quite a scoring phenom on this team. What do you expect from her? And also sophomore Taylor Fortin have also been coming up through the ranks quite nicely. What are your expectations from them in the future?
I think, excuse me, Allie, for one, we changed her around a little bit this year. She was scoring a lot when we had her in the front line, and then we had some injuries, so we had to kind of play with our formation a little bit, and we put her out on the wing. Well, her being left-footed is just phenomenal. I mean, she can get that cross, across the box, and it's very accurate. It's, she has that shot from outside the 18 that is just deadly. So I think as she becomes more comfortable and versatile, she is going to do some really great things. And she's one of those kids that when I say something, she says, yes, coach, okay. And you can't pick a better kid than that. And then Taylor's is my stats person. She knows every stat of every team before I have even looked at that game for that week. I really expect her to flourish next year. She's really done a good job being that person that kind of wins the ball in the midfield. She's great with the ball at her foot. I'd like to see her get a few more scoring opportunities and just bring that aggressiveness even more because she will be an upperclassman, and that comes with a little bit more confidence, I think. So I expect some really great control out of her next year and being able to put the ball where she wants to help us score.
All right, so you mentioned earlier some of the traditions of going to the NAC tournament every single year. Haven't been to the championship in quite a while. From 2006 to 2009, the Eagles won 4 straight conference championships. You were a part of that last one in 2009.
Yep.
What is needed to get this team to revert back to their winning ways?
You know, I think, and it's a little different than what we did in the past when I played, because we never really had an off-season program. We're developing a very vigilant and diligent off-season workout program, and I think that's going to have a huge benefit, add a huge benefit to our program, because there's so much time compared to a small 2-month soccer season that the girls can just be out doing whatever, when really we want to tailor what they're doing to build upon, you know, their athleticism, their ability to jump higher, be stronger, get faster. And so I think the program that we're implementing is really going to help benefit in the long run, and is going to show results right off the bat from the beginning of the season. So I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing is just continuing to develop that environment of family, that people want to come to practice every day, that they want to stay in touch after they graduate. That's kind of gone by the wayside ever since Coach Bosley left, just because he was here so long, and so people always knew they could come back and see him. So, you know, I'm hoping that I have a pretty good tenure here, that I can build that, and the girls want to come back for alumni games, and they want to be a part of the program even after they graduate. So I think it's more characteristics of integrity and character, and what we're trying, and how we're trying to help these young women be great people, are really the things that I think are going to get us back to the traditions of being a winning team.
And finally, Coach, moving forward, as you continue to build rapport with some of the players and strengthen your coaching staff with more experience, what are your overall goals for next season and beyond?
Yeah, I think, you know, so many people think of goals as like, oh, we want to score this many goals next year, we want to win this many games. But I think more importantly is the bigger picture. So, you know, what are the programs that we want to implement that makes our team chemistry better? Well, we want to have a team bonding exercise at the beginning of preseason, where we can go off campus and go whitewater rafting or do a ropes course. So we really start to build that environment early. So things like that, we want to you know, start having breakfast or dinner before every home game, and that can include parents. And so we're really starting to build that legacy of, okay, everybody's included. I also think another big thing, recruiting is huge. You know, we want to continue to recruit good students, good people, and then good athletes. And so we're really, you know, hoping to ramp up recruiting. We've started to do some of that, and hopefully we'll have a good group coming in next year. And I think recruiting is everything in this business, not only for the soccer team, but for Husson University as a whole. So those are kind of the major goals for us.
To kind of like utilize that three keys to success: good people, good students, and good athletes.
That's right.
All right, thank you very much for coming on the show today. And when we come back, we will recap our Husson Athletes of the Week. Stay tuned.
Right, mi cariño. So like I said, everything I learned about cooking, I learned from Grandma's empanadas. Shall we go again?
Yep.
Mix the beef with the onions with the peppers with the paprika with the garlic with the oregano with the cumin. Got it?
Got it.
Throw in the olives, stir, season, stir again, pour out the flour, roll out the dough, make a circle, drop in a fistful of filling, fold over, press down, and ta-da!
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Welcome back to the Locker Room. I'm your host, Nick Blaszczak, and before the break, we were pleased to be joined by head coach of the women's soccer team, Amanda Cummings, but we will now recap the Husson Athletes of the Week. We'd like to congratulate this week's Athletes of the Week, John Smith of the football team and Michaela Topp of the field hockey team. Congratulations to both of them, and good luck to all the teams this week. That's all the time we have for this episode of The Locker Room. We'd like to thank Amanda Cummings for coming on the show today. You can follow The Locker Room on Twitter at TheLockerRoom_TV. If you'd like to watch this episode or any previous episode again, go to our NESCom Journalism channel on YouTube. For everyone working hard behind the scenes, I'm Nick Blaszczak. Have a great rest of your day.